Welcome everyone to another week of the Focus TV. I'm joined by Octavia Wyatt. We have Raymond Lyons with us as well. Season 5, episode 50. So episodes are definitely stacking up. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Octavia was about NFC East, the ever-changing NFC East. He had a lot happen in the world of basketball tonight. He had a lot happen with the NFL trade deadline, which means rapid fire should be interesting to say the very least. But first, going to get through the NFC East. And then Ray's going to talk to y'all about the Wizards because discussion needs to be had. Wizards Twitter is not well at the moment. They're going through it. That's it. We'll start with Octavia and NFC East.
Okay, so I think I have officially jumped on the bandwagon as far as the NFC East is just the best division in football. It just is what it is at this point. Never thought I'd ever say it, but here we are. So this week I'm actually going to go in order of the games played. So I didn't pick any specific order. Just these games came on at 1, and then these games came on at 4:25. So we'll start with the Dallas Cowboys versus the Chicago Bears. Dallas defeated the Bears 49-29. Dak Prescott was 21 of 27, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 5 carries for 34 yards and 1 touchdown. Tony Pollard had 14 carries, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 reception for 16 yards. CeeDee Lamb had 5 receptions for 77 yards and 1 touchdown, and Jake Ferguson had 1 reception for 1 yard and 1 touchdown. So, I mean, granted, first of all, the offense seems like it's back. I mean, I know there was a quarterback controversy that happened that didn't really happen, but that's what Jerry Jones said. It's nice to see Dak and the offense kind of get rolling again. And I say that just purely unbiased. If I was biased, I wouldn't say that. But now it seems like the Cowboys are a little bit more on track as far as offensively. The Cowboys scored touchdowns on their first 4 possessions of the game, something they haven't done in the season since 2004. So that kind of gives you a good, litmus test of seeing how they're starting to kind of get more in sync. As I just alluded to, there was a quote unquote quarterback controversy. Now there's a quote unquote running back controversy. Tony Pollard, who replaced Ezekiel Elliott as a starter this week due to Zeke being out with the knee injury that he sustained last week, um, he became the first Cowboy running back with 100 yards rushing and 3 rushing touchdowns in a game since Julius Jones in 2004. So something else that hasn't been done in a while, and they were able to get done in this game. Um, there's been a lot of talk this week about should Tony start, should Zeke start. I've heard both sides of it, and I see both sides of it as well. If we're talking purely football standards, it should be Tony. If we're talking, you don't want to mess up the chemistry and you don't want to mess up what's been working well, leave it as it is. But it's to me, it's clear that Tony is a better back as of now. I'll be definitely very interested to see what they do with Zeke next year, knowing that his contract is coming up. So it's going to be good. Michael Parsons scored his first touchdown on a crazy play that I guess everybody thought he was down. I mean, Justin Fields jumped over him. All he had to do was like breathe on him, and he wouldn't have scored, or the touchdown wouldn't have counted, regardless if he would have ran it back or not. But I mean, Michael continues to impress. I'm not surprised. I'm never going to be surprised when I see him play well, which he does consistently. The biggest issue right now for Dallas would be their run defense. I mean, granted, Chicago scored 29 points is a little bit concerning because, I mean, the game not that long ago on Thursday night, I mean, it was terrible. Nobody could score anything. So a little bit of an issue. I mean, Cowboys traded for Jonathan Hankins this week to help with that. But as you can tell, it's still a work in progress. Chicago ran for 240 yards. In 6 of their 8 games, the Cowboys have allowed at least 117 yards rushing on the ground. So again, something that needs to be worked on, which is probably something they're definitely going to discuss during this upcoming bye week. So they will have a bye this week that allows them to also get some rest and nurse some injuries that they have. They lost a linebacker, 2 safeties, and then Zeke didn't start. So there was a lot of injuries going around. You always want to get Dak some extra rest, especially with his injury with his thumb. And so it's nice to have him have a little bit of a break as well. So they'll have a bye going into this week. I'm not sure if they play coming out. I got to look at it again. But Nonetheless, they're now 6-2, um, keeping it rolling in the NFC East. Next, the next game that was played that day was Philadelphia Eagles versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, so Battle of Pennsylvania. Philadelphia defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 35-13. Jalen Hurts was 19 of 28, 285 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 carries for 10 yards. Miles Sanders had 9 carries for 78 yards and 1 touchdown. A.J. Brown, 6 receptions, 156 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Zach Pascal, his first touchdown as a Philadelphia Eagle, 2 receptions, 57 yards, and a touchdown. 7-0 for the first time since 2004. I don't believe in like omens and it happened this year, so the same thing could happen. No, granted, a lot the talk is 7-0 for the first time since 2004. Obviously, that was the Super Bowl and lost. So I definitely don't want to repeat that, but that's the talk. AJ Brown set a new career high with 156 yards receiving in one game, along with 3 touchdowns. He caught touchdown passes of 39 yards, 27 yards, and 29 yards, all in the first half, becoming the first player to do so since 2004 to record 3 touchdowns of 25 plus yards in the game. Titans, I don't know what you were doing or what you didn't see. I know that part of the issue or talk was that he kind of had some injuries early on, but I ain't seen not a glimpse of an injury at all. And I appreciate it for you guys as your loss is our gain because it's great. And I mean, Jalen Hurts is playing out of his mind again. The best thing that I love is that they're able to beat you in different ways. I mean, granted, like I said, Jalen had 2 carries for 10 yards, and all they talk about is how much of a rusher he is. And his Achilles heel this year was can he stand in the pocket and throw the ball? I mean, the balls that he threw to AJ Brown, it just like he walked over there and put it in his hand. So he's playing amazing. And it's also good to see that a lot of different players can get involved. Granted, the game was AJ's game where he was, able to have a breakout, but Miles Sanders still got a touchdown. Zach Pascal got his first touchdown. Dallas Goedert caught some good passes. Devontae Smith had 5 receptions as well. Also this week, with a trade deadline that we'll talk about, but they picked up Robert Quinn from the Chicago Bears. So that beefs up that defensive line as well. After they lost Derek Barnett earlier this year to an ACL injury. So it's getting more and more depth that we need, and it's looking good. So really good. Like I said, Jalen Hurts was near perfect, 19 to 26, 285 yards, 4 touchdowns, 140.6 passer rating with the 10 rushing yards. And again, really did most of his damage in the second quarter, which obviously is a trend. They scored 14 points in that time frame. For whatever reason, that's the quarter they decided they want to score all their points in. They were averaging 18.7 points per second quarter and just 8.1 in all other quarters before Sunday's victory. But it was really good to see them score touchdowns in the third and the fourth quarter to kind of put a little bit of those things on the back burner, but it's still something that you have to pay attention to. Other thing is that the secondary played really, really well as well. They kept that trio of wide receivers under control for the most part. Deontay Johnson only had 5 catches for 35 yards. Claypool only had 4 catches for 45 yards. And George Pickens had no catches, no yards for the first time in his very young professional career. Obviously, that's something else I'm sure we'll talk about. He's obviously that guy in Pittsburgh already. Like a lot of people said he would be because they were willing to part with somebody else who's no longer going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. But also in the game, Jordan Davis has a high ankle sprain. He's very doubtful for this week's game as it's a quick turnaround. They play Thursday night against the Texans. But again, which is really, really good because we have good depth on defense. So I'm not too concerned about it. Granted, that's a big body to be in the middle. But I know that they'll be able to pick up the slack with everything else we have. Next, we have the Commanders versus the Colts. The Commanders were able to squeak out a win 17-16 over the Colts. Taylor Heineke was 23 of 31, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 6 carries, 429 yards, and 1 touchdown. He was actually their leading rusher, which is crazy. Curtis Samuels was the next leading rusher at 4 carries for 29 yards and 3 receptions for 50 yards. Terry McLaurin had 6 receptions, 113 yards, one carry for -7 yards. And Antonio Gibson actually had 7 receptions for 58 yards and one touchdown and 7 carries for 19 yards. So it was a lot of mix ups in here. Running backs getting receiving yards, receivers getting rushing yards. It just shows you that they're really trying to pretty much do anything they possibly can to get a spark and to get down the field. This week it wasn't a pretty win. Granted, a win is a win, and I'll always say that. And it's something about Taylor Heineke with them. Carson Wentz, he might as well just pack his bags at this point. Because if Taylor Heineke can come in and do it with the same people that you had and you can't get it done, it's a problem. So we know Taylor Heineke isn't the answer, but we also knew Carson Wentz wasn't the answer. Taylor Heineke, who did have another interception in the game, he has an innate capability to bounce back from those interceptions and then put together good drives for them. It's like he just has a mind freeze at one point, and he always has some type of issue there. But he was able to put together consecutive scores, including a winning 89-yard drive with a go-ahead touchdown with 22 seconds remaining. And that pass came to Terry McLaurin, who was big in the last 2 weeks. Nothing more bigger than the pass that he caught in this game, the fourth quarter against Stephon Gilmore, to basically seal the deal. I'm sure he wished he would have got in the end zone because he was very close to it, but he still set them up for Gibson to run it in for them to get the touchdown, basically sealing the win. The biggest question is, can the Commanders continue to win like this? They win very ugly. It's not very impressive. And again, I will be the first person to tell you play who's in front of you, but it's the Colts with a rookie quarterback that started since Matt Ryan has been basically deactivated for the year. So it's just it's kind of a hit or miss. We're definitely going to find out in the next 2 weeks if they can sustain it or not. They'll play against the Vikings this week, and then following the week after that, it will be another conference game with the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington Commanders at that point. Last but not least, the New York Giants played against the Seattle Seahawks, and the Giants finally got their second loss of the season. They lost to the Seahawks. Giants had 13, Seahawks 27. Dan Jones was 17 of 31, 176 yards, 6 carries for 20 yards. Saquon Barkley had 20 carries, 53 yards, and 1 touchdown and 3 receptions for 9 yards. And then Darius Slayton had 5 receptions for 66 yards. Biggest issue in this game was turnovers. And my man Richie James Jr., he was doing so well. He just had a really bad run with fumbling twice in Giants territory to give the Seahawks excellent field position both times. Seattle came away with 10 points for that. And if you look at the score, 27-13, those 10 points were very pivotal. Granted, it's still a 4-point differential from there, but that definitely keeps them a lot closer in the game. The Giants are bound to lose one of these close games. They've, kind of just hung around in pretty much every game they've had this year, and then they just kind of cashed in the fourth quarter, just weren't able to do it this year. Shout out to Geno Smith. He's playing out of his mind. I think I heard a stat where they said like under 10% of his passes are considered missed targets. Like he's literally dropping the ball into his receiver's arms. And granted, he has great receivers in DK Metcalf as well as Tyler Lockett. So he's playing out of his head. The Giants did trade Kadarius Toney away to the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll be interested to see how that works out. If Kadarius Toney is actually healthy, I think they said he's healthy, but they're not rushing him. So just seeing what's going to happen, because the biggest issue with the Giants is they just don't have enough playmakers. Those other games they were able to kind of skin it out and take it one step at a time, but they just weren't able to get it done this week. The Giants allowed Seattle to convert on 2 of 2 for 4th downs, which is a recipe for disaster. The Giants were penalized 6 times for 53 yards, while Seattle was only penalized 3 for 25. New York went 6 of 16 on 3rd downs and 0 for 1 on 4th downs. They only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. They lost the turnover battle, and they surrendered 5 sacks. There's no way you can win a game like that. Granted, I say no way. I feel like they probably won one this year like that, but it's not going to last forever, which is where they are now. But they're still in a really good spot. They're 6-2. I have to look at the actual standings, but them and the Cowboys have the same record, so they're tied in the division as well. best division. I mean, we're the only division where everybody's above 500 with the Commanders winning this week. And the Giants now are going into their bye week. Um, get some rest, see if anybody can come off of their injuries because they've had a lot of injuries as well. I haven't talked about Evan Neal, who was injured as well. So they have a lot going on, but they have a bye week. So next week we're only going to have two games: the Philadelphia Eagles and the Texans on Thursday, and then we have um, I just forgot that fast. Somebody plays somebody, not Dallas. Oh, the Commanders play the Vikings. So this should be interesting.
It definitely should. Um, I'm interested to see who the Commanders quarterback will be next year, considering they try to get a certain somebody
It shouldn't be unless they
this
say
year.
I don't know what the contract is.
Hey man, James will probably be in DC next year. Just remember, I'm saying it now. Just know I was besides myself when the news broke earlier this year.
We'll let
You,
Sam play next year.
you say let who?
Sam Howell, they still got him.
Man, he'll be right behind Jimmy next year. Jimmy will be right here. What is this area love more than a winner? Jimmy's Jimmy gonna be right here, and all you're gonna hear is that he took X amount of teams to NFC Championship games and Super Bowls. Y'all can't tell me that doesn't sound like something you haven't heard here before.
Absolutely.
Insert another random name of someone who was around some winning, even if they weren't solely responsible for it. So would it be shot? Gonna take our first break. When we get back, Ray's gonna talk Wizards. So I don't know if the conversation is gonna get better. It's gonna stay in this place. I don't know. We'll see. You're watching Focus TV. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back to the Focus TV. Ray, I know some people, at least the folks at Wizards Outlook, they're aware of what's going on, but so it's a different group of people here for this program. What's been up with the Wizards?
Well, the conversation isn't going to get any brighter. The Wizards, they've been on the slide. They dropped below 500 after last night's loss to the Philadelphia 76ers without Joel Embiid. The defense, man, it's going to be a common theme. If they play defense, they're going to win. If they don't, they're going to lose and lose badly. And that's pretty much what happened last night. The final score wasn't really indicative of how this game went. I mean, it was 52-52 at the half, but a third quarter collapse just doomed the Wizards. They had about 3 straight turnovers that Philadelphia converted. Actually, the beginning of the end was Kuz tried to double pump reverse a fast break dunk and missed. And then Philly comes down and hits a 3. The score was 65-64 at that point. And it pretty much went downhill from there. The Wizards got a lot to figure out, man. And like I said, a lot of it starts on the defensive end. But, they need to find a consistent group that's going to compete on defense and execute on offense. Doesn't look like they found that yet. These rotations are getting kind of weird. Seems like West is just trying to figure things out. But at some point you gotta be consistent and actually try to find something that works or do something that makes sense. Like I was talking about the third quarter last night. Bradley Beal had like 3 straight possessions where he turned the ball over. Monte Morris is in the game. That's why you brought him here, to be a steady-handed point guard, put the ball in his hands and let Brad do what he does best. So I don't know, man. It's just calamity at this point. They're not competing, they're not being physical. They're getting punked. We saw it on Friday against the Pacers. And then, Philly came in last night and did what they did. They got Philly again tomorrow night. Who knows if Embiid is going to play or not. But, if they got handled like that without him, and it just looks pretty dismal at this point. But again, it's 7 games in. It's a lot of season left, but it's been a consistent theme with this team for the last couple of years. So until they prove otherwise, you just got to assume it's going to go down the same road. But again, man, this defense has got to get better. It's got to get better. They're not talking. They're not communicating. They're putting teams on the free throw line. Like it's like typically it's one thing you can point to and say, all right, they got this under control. They just need to plug these holes in other areas. It's a lot of holes here. So, hopefully they can get it together. But yeah, this is unacceptable. And Bradley Beal, he's had two mediocre performances back to back. They played the Celtics the other day. I don't think he scored until the third quarter. Last night he had a pedestrian game by his standards. So, he's got to emerge and he's got to be that guy, because his contract dictates it. So yeah, it is what it is, until they turn things around. This is going to be the mood of these updates. So it's up to them.
All right, Octavia, I got to ask you a question. You're not on Wizards Outlook with us. So I got to ask you, we look around the league, there's a bunch of teams who aren't performing the way they would like to start this year. Some of the players on said teams, people have no issues putting, directing all of their anger or whatnot, or whatever it may be directly at them. At what point do you think things kind of start to shift here in Washington?
Honestly, it's hard to say because I would have thought it would have shifted a long time ago. That's the part that's kind of, and I don't know what it is. Because I feel like every year they try something different, and we get in, these different names and stuff, and nothing really changes. So I think it kind of always, like they say, it kind of goes back to culture. And it's like, what is the culture that they're really building? And what is the goal that they're really trying to work for? Because to me, what's disheartening and it would be annoying if I was like a super huge Wizards fan would be that literally I hear you guys talk about this all the time. It's their defense. It's their defense. It's their defense. It's their effort on defense. And I'm like, how much more clear could it be? And how can it not be any type of change? And it doesn't even sound like it's like any type of slight change. And to me, like I said, defense to me is definitely effort. Like you have to want to play defense. Like if you don't, like it's going to show that you don't want to. So I'm not surprised. I hope that they can turn it around. Because like you said, it's still a lot of season left, only 7 games in. But the East is tough. I mean, the East is what to me was even harder this year is that the East is tough, but the West is just as tough too. A lot of times, like we'll have one conference that's like, all right, that's like the hard one. Like it's kind of hit or miss with this one. Like there's some really good teams in the East, and then granted, there are some really good teams in the West too. And even though, like you said, some of the top teams that we thought were going to be there are struggling, and then the teams that you didn't even think would slightly have a chance are 6-1 or 5-1. I mean, my Blazers started 4-0, so let me just go ahead and throw that out there. I'm like, what is happening? And I mean, the Golden State is struggling at times. I mean, I think Boston started off well, even with the situation of them losing their coach. So it's early in the season, but they got to get it together if they want to have a good season. And at this point, I don't even know what they would constitute a good season as, because some of those other teams, good seasons are like a good season for us is making the NBA championship. Like, I don't know what a good season is for the Washington Wizards at this point. Is it making the play-in game? Like, is that a success? And if that is, like, it's kind of sad. But I feel like that's probably what a success will look like. Because, I mean, the last time they made the playoffs was when Russ was here, and I don't even know if that was the same season they started to play in, but it's a lot.
Anything else Wizards related you want to chime in with, Ray?
Nah. Yeah, if they don't make the playoffs, it's a disappointment, given the moves they made coming into the season. you know, they got a veteran laden team now. Like,
Mhm.
so this makes it even more inexcusable. You know, if you reach this point, period, you should be able to competently execute the fundamentals of basketball. You got a veteran team that's been around. Like
Mhm.
Monte and Will Barton came from the Nuggets, and I mean they're not like, you know, they've been good for the team. But it's some of the other guys that are here that they just aren't performing as expected, and you know, until they do, these are the results we're going to get.
Be a rough year.
Man, rough year. It's like 8 games in. Again, one of the things we talked about on Wizards Outlook was like this little 2 week stretch and how real it was on their schedule. Like Ray said, it continues. You got Philly possibly with JoJo Wednesday night. You got whatever version of Brooklyn will be rolling through this place come Friday, where I don't care what's going on in their lives. Death taxes and the two dudes who can score. Versus the team who's trying to figure out where to be at on defense. It's not a good combination. Um, and then the Grizzlies and such in Memphis. Like,
That's tough.
yeah, it's tough. Luke next Thursday. Utah with Laurie Markkinen. I don't know what he's been on. And the Grizzlies in DC. Like, that's crazy because at one time you probably looked at this schedule before games started being played. Like, oh man, they got Utah. That's probably a solid game in that stretch. Right now, I don't even know if you want smoke with Utah. Come next week. So we'll see. We're gonna take our second break when we get back. Get into some of these topics on rapid fire. You watching the Focus TV. Welcome back. Look, we're gonna get straight into it. Rapid fire. Again, there's been a lot going on in sports today, and NFL trade deadline, which some of you fans are happy. Other you fans are wondering why your team didn't do anything, and even more of you were like, "That's all that cost." Depending on when you saw who went where and why, and how it's going to affect your life in the second half of this season. But we're going to start with dysfunction central in the NBA. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. So, good old Brooklyn. Steve Nash is out of Brooklyn as the Brooklyn's Nets head coach. Jacques Vaughn will get the interim tag and coach tonight against Chicago. How long he's in that role and who else the Nets might bring in is unknown. But names are definitely starting flying around, including one Ime Udoka, who's actually emerged as somewhat of a front runner. In parentheses, these questions coming via Cardell. In parentheses, meaning he has KD and Kyrie's blessing. And as a coach who brought the Celtics together last season, however, he's away from those Celtics due to an improper relationship with a female subordinate. The situation ugly enough that Boston was willing to let the coach that took them to the finals last season talk to other teams. Does Nets owner Joe Tsai want that PR? We're going to find out about that very soon. Quinn Snyder's another guy who coached the share the ball selfless system in Utah that Donovan Mitchell at times chafed against, but he's an elite X's and O's coach who understands defense. So Octavia, start with you. Your thoughts on who might be the successor to once again, it feels like poor Jacques Vaughn. Brooklyn's once again looking right past him again. So who might be the next Brooklyn Nets head coach?
Yeah, I was expecting a bunch of NFL, trade stuff to happen on the NFL deadline today, trade deadline today. And when I saw this reprise, like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, I thought I could get away from all of the turmoil that's going on in Brooklyn for one day and focus on football, but no, they have to continuously dominate the news cycle. Um, One thing that I about the story that was interesting to me was the fact that they made a point to say that it was a mutual decision, that it wasn't just Steve Nash, we want you out of here. He's like, no, I don't want to go. Steve Nash tired of them too. He fed up with them too. He like, I ain't got time for this. So I wish y'all luck and everything y'all do. I'm out. I wholeheartedly believe that. I really do. Um, I was not surprised to hear that Ime became the front runner. I was surprised to hear that Boston is allowing him to be the front runner, and they won't. I think they said they won't like fine him or something along money wise. I can't remember what it was, but allow him to do that. So I'm fairly sure that that's what it's going to be. Like they said that there should be an announcement in the next 24 to 48 hours, and I'm like, I don't know how you find a coach that fast, unless you weren't already doing this. And it just makes sense that it would be Ime because they know him since he was a assistant coach on the staff prior to him becoming the head coach in Boston. It's just a terrible whole situation all the way around. When you talk about negative press, like it's just bad all the way around from any angle that you look at it. Because it's like, okay, so whatever Ime did was bad enough to get him suspended for the whole year in Boston, but it's not that bad for Brooklyn to be like, oh no, come over here and coach us. Because again, it just looks like negative press for them. Not saying that either one of them believe it, because again, I still don't know what Ime did. But it's the optics. That's the one thing you always got to think about is the optics. I feel for personally, I feel for the Celtics players because you had all year thinking you going into your season with this guy. Now you find out that this guy is going to like your rival on the other side. Granted, he came from there, but it's just a terrible situation. I don't think Quinn Snyder, I think, is a great coach. I don't think he'd be a good fit. And at the same time, like I said, I think it's Ime because he's been there long enough to deal with them, and I think they will respect him enough, hopefully, to listen to what he has to say. And I think he would be the one to wrangle them. But just the optics and the way that it looks is just not a good look. And if you want to talk about negative press and publicity, they got a lot of it going on right now, and this just adds to it.
Yeah, they had something going around today. I don't know if it was a meme or whatnot, but like legit, there's a possibility that they're actually low key searching for a PR person right
They
now.
should have already had one.
Like legit, like someone found an ad for it today.
And they need to get a discount too because I take that back. They don't need a discount. They need to pay double to the PR person because the PR person will be working overtime.
Because you never know what's going to happen coming into work there. Ray,
she need to approve every tweet, every picture. It has to go through me. Like I don't know what to tell you. It's terrible.
For the team. Ray, your thoughts on all this going on? I know you saw it all today. With Woj and Shams get the sharing, and the truth usually lies somewhere within the middle. But it's just really interesting how quickly it escalated from it's mutual. First it started with he's fired, then it's mutual, then it's we're looking, we're searching. Ime, Quinn, we're searching. No, we didn't decide on anybody, said Sean Marks at 5 p.m. Your thoughts, Ray?
Yeah, this is pretty on brand for them. Over the past couple years, but yeah, this is a dumpster fire, man. And like Octavia said, whoever is brave enough to take that job, they need to be the highest paid person in the organization because they're going to be doing the most work. Like this is insane how this is folding out. And if you fire your coach 6 games into the season, he probably should have never came into the season as the head coach. So yeah, it's just incompetence all around. More power to them. But this looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better. And if they hire Ime, Lord knows they better go. How many games they played so far? 6?
7, I think.
7. How many losses they have? Are they 2-5?
They're 2-5 right now.
If they hire Ime, they better go 77-5 and win the championship. Because that's the only way it's going to be worth it.
Ain't happening
to deal with what they're gonna have to deal with. But hey man, I just got my popcorn. This has nothing to do with me.
Like man, all right. So on to some NFL. The Broncos traded Bradley Chubb to the Dolphins for a package including 49ers first-round pick. You guys remember, literally 2 years ago, the Niners traded King's ransom up to go get QB1. Their future QB1 in Trey Lance. That said, this is the last year. Well, this upcoming draft is the last year that the picks that they spent to move up, after this upcoming draft, they get all their picks back the following year. That said, the Dolphins, when you want to talk about somebody making the most of an opportunity with what they got with those picks, The Packers and Dolphins gave up to get Bradley Chubb. The Niners 23 first-round draft pick. The Broncos 24 fourth-round draft pick and running back Chase Edmonds. And they got Bradley freaking Chubb back and a fifth-round pick from a 2025 fifth-round pick. The Dolphins have the Niners first-round pick next year because the Niners traded up with them for Trey, as mentioned a little earlier. The Dolphins forfeited their own first-round pick for violating NFL tampering rules, which is why, again, that pick in the Trey Lance deal is like the gift that just keeps giving. And look, they've gotten a lot out of that trade. Chubb arrived in Denver as the fifth overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. He's in the fifth and final season of his 5-year rookie contract. The Dolphins certainly expect to sign Chubb to a long-term contract extension, or else they wouldn't have made that trade. The Dolphins clearly see themselves as Super Bowl contenders. They have some talent on the back end, but, nobody wants to solely blitz in today's NFL. If your front four can really get pressure, it makes the life a little bit easier. So now they feel like they've added a piece to their defense that will help them go on a postseason run. Ray, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on Bradley Chubb? It's a big name. He's another one of those guys where it's only health. Like, it's not a talent thing. It's not a production. It's if he's on the field, you know what you get.
I mean, they, like you said, they swing for the fences and trying to make a splash and make a run. So, I mean, with this questions of health, I mean, it's a good gamble as far as I'm concerned. That thing can go one or two ways, and they got something back for him. So, I'm not mad at it. Whenever you can get a guy like that, and typically teams will try to target dudes like that because, like you said, if he's on the field, he's productive. And at that point, you're just gambling on him being healthy. So, I mean, it's not like he's had like devastating injuries, but yeah, it's either way. I think they're in a good spot. So hey, hope it works out for him. But high risk, high reward.
They also, I'm sorry, because I don't want to make this seem like this was a throw-in. They also traded for somebody who's very familiar with Mike McDaniels. And Jeff Wilson Jr., a.k.a. Hefe, is headed to Miami for a fifth-round pick, which, for whatever reason, it's the round the Niners draft the best in. And they treat fifth-round picks like first-round picks in that building because they burn first. They burn seconds. Fifths, they cherish like other teams cherish first, which is interesting. But again, I think, and I don't think it's a knock on Chase Edmonds, at least for me, as far as the Jeff Wilson Jr. thing goes, felt like somebody familiar with the system to come in right away and probably to kind of like preserve Raheem. Because Raheem is amazing, but Raheem cannot handle, you can't give Raheem 15 carries a game because Raheem won't be there for multiple games if you do that. Octavia, your thoughts on Bradley Chubb, though?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised. I felt like he would get dealt eventually. It was just really figuring out where he would fall. Shout out to Les Snead because he got everybody saying F them picks. Take them all. Give me the player right now. Because that's what everybody's doing. That's why they were saying this is the most players that's been traded on an NFL trade deadline in forever. I think it was 8 or 9 people. I mean, for goodness sakes, Calvin really got traded and he not even playing. Can't even play till next year and this man got traded. So everybody is literally taking F them picks seriously. And all it does is just shows me that the Miami Dolphins think that they really have it. They think that it's showing a lot in these teams that are, because one thing that's different about this year's to me is that it's kind of like a cluster pretty much everywhere. You have your few outliers of teams that are really, really good, teams that are really, really bad. But majority of the teams are right up under each other, kind of good, kind of bad, have an off day. So a lot of teams are really taking this opportunity hey, if we can get a game or two and get in a good position to get either a wild card, win our division, whatever, we got to take it and go with it. So I think that the Miami Dolphins realize that they have a good shot at it because, I mean, the biggest question coming into this season is Tua the guy? Obviously, they feel like he is the guy. I mean, they're 5-2 in the 2 games they lost. He didn't play, so that's a good indication of that. And then, if you think about it, they know they need somebody to probably chase Josh Allen and probably chase Patrick Mahomes. They know what they got to do in the AFC. It's not the NFC. It's the AFC. And the AFC, granted, maybe not as great as we thought it would be with the AFC, West kind of stinking it up. But it's still the AFC West. They still have a lot of good players that can, get it together. I think a lot of them are going through a lot of injuries. Outside of the Raiders, they're just terrible. The Raiders are just bad. Like, really bad. I know Devontae and Adam and Aaron Jones miss each other like hell. Somebody said they should just redo the trade and trade them back. Both teams would be happy. But Bradley Chubb is a great player, like you said. It's nothing about his talent. It's literally about him being on the field, and I still think he's young enough where he's able to still overcome any type of injury that he would have, as long as it's not a catastrophic injury, which is the same way I felt about AJ Brown. Like, he's young, he's going to get back to whatever he was. He might not be as explosive as he was, but I mean, most people aren't that explosive. So even taking a notch off of it is a lot better than what they would have had. So I definitely think that they got a good deal out of it. I'm glad I ain't got to worry about it in the NFC. Let the AFC do all of that nonsense and take care of that. But I mean, some NFC teams said some interesting things this week too. But the Bradley Chubb, that was definitely a good pickup for them.
Yeah, it's definitely like the crazy thing is like people, like you said about people taking the Rams philosophy, except I feel like some teams have done it in a far more responsible way.
Yes.
Like if the Rams took it, and like I think they just went to like balls of the wall with it. Just
they went a little
throw
hard.
The picks in the trash, burn everything. Yeah. Everything's fine. Like Wolf of Wall Street with it. That's how the Rams did it. Where like it felt like Miami was like, I mean, we got some extra picks. Can't pick everybody. I mean, it is a Bradley Chubb. Now I'll take one of those. What's it called? San Fran gave up all them picks for Christian McCaffrey. Like, let's be honest. I'm not trying to be rude. At some point, you get tired of hoping undrafted running backs and 5th and 4th round picks, can turn into diamonds when you can just take someone who was selected top 10 as a running back. Just maybe sometimes, like no disrespect to those picks. You drafted Christian McCaffrey with any of those picks? Probably not. What did y'all do with AJ Brown? Y'all missed. Y'all been so bad at draft the wide receiver in Philly, right? Oh my God. They were like, you know what? We're not gonna do.
Terrible.
We're just bad at drafting them. We're gonna go find one that's already. take my picks. Like this. I'm not gonna keep banging my head against the wall. So kudos to some of those teams that are doing that. And then for some of the teams that kind of like we're hesitant, we're stuck because of mismanaging picks in the past. Like the Rams been the kings of that trade. They've been offering first from they got like Laker first round picks where they're like 4 years away. It's the NFL. Nobody wants your picks for 4 years away. Like they offered Charlotte. I'm sorry. They tried to get Brian Burch for Carolina for 2 firsts and Cam Akers. Yeah, and that's what Carolina said. We'll keep him and pay him. Bye.
I was like, bro, we got next year. We got to get it together now.
Hey, that was like Brian's still gonna be young. Y'all still gonna be. All right, so this might be the final question tonight. We're not sure, but Jimmy Butler on the Heat's 2-5 start. We're going to win the effing championship. The Heat were seen as fringe title contenders entering the season with questions about how they would replace PJ Tucker. Now there are a lot of questions, but Butler's still very confident, as he told Sam Amick of The Athletic. Quote, "We're still going to win the championship. I don't care what nobody says. Count us out. We're going to win the effing championship. I'm telling you, I don't give a damn that we started 2-5. Yeah, we're 2-5, but we straight. We got time, man. We just got to play with a little bit more urgency and realize how fragile this thing is. Trust in one another and play basketball the right way on both sides of the ball. There's a lot of good things, so I don't get discouraged. I know we have these good stretches in games, and it's like, damn, they can really do it. We can do it. We just got to do it consistently," end quote. Again, like, this is a heck of a quote, but like, man, we're 7 games in. Why is this needed? That's just me personally. So I'll take we'll start with you and then Ray. Like, this outstanding quote. Again, 7 games in. I think it's a 1-point game between them and Golden State right now at home in Miami. But your thoughts on Jimmy Butler's statements?
Sir, I love your enthusiasm. And I love your moxie, and that's what you're supposed to say. But I'm gonna need you to temper it down a little bit. Just a tad. a tad bit. And I mean, honestly, number one, they need to change his picture. Like all the the graphics that they use, I can't take it. Every time seeing him with these box braids, it's driving me insane. Like I'm glad he took him out, but it's like he took all his promotional pictures with these box braids. So every time I look at who plays next week, see Jimmy Butler in these box braids is throwing me off. Um, but I mean, that's what you're supposed to say. You're 2-5, and like we talked about, a lot of the teams that would be, top tier teams or whatever, aren't starting off too great. Um, you got a chance, but I mean, I don't see I don't I would say Super Bowl. I don't see NBA championship. I just don't. I mean, if you didn't, I mean, I think they had the best record in the East last year. You didn't even make it to the conference finals. Or did they? They might have. I can't remember. I don't remember who they played in the conference finals. Now I'm thinking about it. But I mean, come on. Yeah, so, granted, like I said, that's what he's supposed to say. We're going to the championship. If I was a player, I'd say it to myself every year. I don't know if I put it on wax for everybody else to hear. And then as soon as we lose in the first round, everybody go bring this back up like, so these receipts said what now? But I mean, it's Jimmy Butler. I'm not that surprised. It's him. He's very outspoken, and he says what he feels, and that's what he feels, and cool. But I need to see it on the court, and 2-5 ain't gonna cut it. So we'll see. We'll see what keeps going. Now, Grace, like I said, I think they'd be my Blazers, so I can't talk too much, but still beginning of the season.
Ray, your thoughts on the ever-changing hair of Jimmy Butler and his statement?
Driving me insane.
Yeah, bro, just calm down a little bit. Like it's like you said, we 7 games in. We started slow, but we can definitely get this thing back on track. That's it.
End quote.
That is it, man. All this we gonna win the championship stuff. I don't care if you were 7-0. Saying that at this point, calm down. Especially, it's not like you have a history of winning the championship. So, dude, just focus on what's going on the court. Rectify it there, and this type of thing will take care of itself. You're not going to talk your way into a championship.
Yeah, I'm with y'all. This feels like the longest 8 games to start an NBA season in like the last 30 years. Like they are aging me deeply every week, every day. Someone's doing too much. Meanwhile, in the East, the quietest team I think is still undefeated. Milwaukee and them are just going about their business.
Just waiting.
Like, if I was
just waiting for Chris Middleton to come back.
Like they're missing a key piece, and it was a piece that they sorely missed in the playoffs last year, right? Cool, everybody knows it. They're quietly going about their business. What are you even talking for? Like, again, Miami, no disrespect to you. He was like a bubble finalist. I don't care. Like, back in the real world, like, what are we doing? What are you even discussing? I'm not trying to be rude to the bubble, but like, there's a lot of things that happened in the bubble that didn't translate back to regular. There's a lot of stuff that happened in the bubble that just stayed in the bubble from play-wise for a lot of players. So I think that's the nicest thing I could say. I guess maybe one more question. Trying to find what's a good one real quick. Okay, here we go. I think this is very interesting. So we know the Steelers, as always, do a good job of drafting wide receivers. That said, with their track record, when they typically get rid of a wide receiver, did anybody find it kind of weird that today they were openly willing to trade Chase Claypool for a second-round pick to the Chicago Bears? Obviously, for the Bears, I can't knock you. Justin Fields is out there playing with Daryl Mooney and NFL castoffs. So Chase Claypool right now probably looks like the second coming of any Hall of Famer. Because he's going through it down there. You want to go get your young quarterback something. So I guess who answered first last time? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. So whoever wants whoever wants to speak first on this one, I gotta ask. So the Bears gave up a second round pick to get Chase Claypool. Just your thoughts from the Bears perspective, and then the Steelers perspective. Like, are y'all just willingly give up boy with no issues? I guess.
I think so. I think that because I feel like they already had too many. I mean, there's not enough balls to go around. I mean, you got Freiermuth, you got Deontay Johnson, you got Claypool, you got still Najee can still catch out of the backfield, and then you got George Pickens. And like I said, I think George Pickens is him. Like I think he is going to be that guy. And at this point, it's like, who's the most expendable? And if I really had to pick, it probably would be Chase Claypool. And like you said, the Bears are hurting for somebody. And I think I just read something that said that before that trade, he was possibly going to the Packers. Packers would have probably just passed out. Like, please come. We need at least somebody to come on the field, because even the wide receivers that they have that are not, rookies and everything, they can't even stay on the field. I mean, Christian Watson is hurt every 5 seconds. Randall Cobb's on injury reserve, and Sammy Watkins is Sammy Watkins. Alvin Lazard is hurt. Like, it's just a mess. So I just think that they figured out, like, and honestly, part of me feels like they are kind of like, bowing out for the season a little bit, because it's tough looking out there in Seattle. I mean, not Seattle, in Pittsburgh. Like, I watched the game, and even though I felt like we played really great, like, they just played really bad. Like, it's a huge turnaround of a difference from week 1 to TJ Watt not being out there, and Minka can't do everything. So I just think that they're kind of punting, a little bit. I know it's going to suck for Tomlin, and it's being his first season that's not going to be a winning season, because I can't see it happening at this point. If it does, he is miraculous. But yeah, I just thought that somebody had to go. Like, there's no way that they would be able to satisfy all of them. And we know wide receivers and pass catchers are divas. Somebody's going to get mad eventually that they're not getting enough catches and enough looks. So why not get something out of it now? Because you might as well. And like I said, Chicago was hurting for it, because it's Daryl Mooney and I don't know who else. I barely know Daryl Mooney.
Anytime Dante Pettis' name keeps popping back up on purpose,
that's
down bad.
That's who it is.
I'm not trying to be rude. Like, I'm not firing any shots. I'm just like,
who it is.
All I'm saying is the team I root for drafted him, and they course corrected so quick by trading up to go get BA the following year. Just saying, anytime you got like a crazy course correction, it's never good. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I don't know if they're waving a white flag yet, but it's definitely in hand.
It's in their back pocket.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and if you can get a second round pick out of it, might as well pull the trigger. Like Octavia said, they had a bevy of wide receivers. So, I guess Claypool was the one that the Bears asked for. It's like, oh, you want to give us a second round pick? Cool. We both can move on with our lives. You give Justin Fields at least one respectable target. I mean, it's not going to be life changing for them, but it helps a little bit. But yeah, man, I think they just at a point where they just said, we got to do something here. And definitely looks like they're preparing for next season. So yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think both teams are preparing for next season for two totally different reasons, except one of the teams has their QB1. One of their teams is going to be right back up here looking for another quarterback. Need some ammo to do it. And then for, like you guys said, with the Bears, they got like $130 million in cap space. They got a bunch of picks. You know who your QB is. You spend all your money on all your resources on defenses recently. Yeah, at least now you don't have to go into next year's draft with the pressure of whoever I pick has to be wide receiver 1. Nah, that's on Claypool. Like, this is on you, buddy. You're wide receiver 1. You mess this up, we'll ship you out, whatever. But ideally, we have wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 now instead of a wide receiver 2/3. And Cast-offs. I'm not gonna keep putting that man's name out there. I'm trying to be mature. Hey man, look, I'm not doing that. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I want to thank y'all for tuning in this week. As always, like we said, we got a lot going on with the Wizards. College basketball really gets going this week as well. So if you're not following us on social media, it's a really good time to do so. Obviously, we have Wizards Outlook for all home games, away games as well. For away games, we got this new thing we're doing this year. We're pretty much essentially hosting like little watch parties. So follow us on social media. Come hang out with us while we're watching the games. Wizards fans, if y'all need to woosah during the game, we got you. We're here for you. Again, it's the longest 8 games to start NBA season of my lifetime. That's what it feels like, at least. And then don't forget, obviously, Friday nights, watch our show on DCTV, 10 p.m.s. And then on a Roku channel, all you got to do if you got a Roku television or device is literally type in the search box of Focus TV, double tap OK on the device if you add to the channel. And again, you get much more than just the weekly installment of the Focus TV on that channel. Y'all have a great evening, and we'll see y'all next week. And I'm interested to see what we'll be saying about the Wizards next week come this time, because they would have been through some things already. We'll see.